a late inning blow. It was, through 3 innings, it was actually a scoreless game, and the Cubs scored the first run of the game in the 4th inning. Javier Baez had a 2-out RBI single to score Jason Hayward, who those two guys, especially Jason Hayward, had really good weeks. But with the way Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo, and Wilson Contreras played against St. Louis, that's what costed them that series, because we saw the pitching was there. I get that the last game we lost 8-0, but we really should have won this one against Wainwright, a hittable pitcher. Anyways, in the 4th inning, the Cubs made it 1-0, like I said. However, in the bottom of the inning, St. Louis didn't let that lead last long, as a wild pitch by Yu Darvish allowed Jose Martinez to score and make it a 1-1 game. And then Paul Goldschmidt had to go ahead and eventually game-winning homer in the 6th inning, his 25th of the season. He's been red hot, at least going into this series he was. I don't know what he did this last weekend in the last couple games against Oakland, but he came into this game, I think, with like 6 straight games with a homer minus the game before this, if that made sense. So 6 homers in his last 7 games, I think it was, coming into this series, and he hit another one, his 25th of the season. Carlos Martinez closed it out for his 11th save for the Cardinals as we lost 2-1 game 1. Let's move on to game 2, as the Cubs actually shut out the Cardinals in this one. However, it was a nail-biter towards the end, but anyways, it was a 0-0 game through 5. Ian Happ, with his first RBI of 2019, it was a clutch one, a 2-out RBI single in the 6th to make it 1-0. And then Javier Baez stole third base in the 8th inning, and then he scored on a throwing error by Matt Wieters. This was a play that was just totally El Mago, because he was about halfway in between second and third. It appeared he was dead in the road, caught in the road, but he made Matt Wieters throw it to a base. Matt Wieters threw it down to second, and it was like offline because right when he threw it, Javi just ran to third, obviously. So I think there was probably a little stutter or whatever in Matt Wieters' throw, and a little hesitation. And Javi stole third because the ball actually got away from the second baseman, whoever was covering the base. And then Javi scored. He produced his own run in the 8th after a 2-out double, I'm pretty sure, too. But then in the 9th, it got a little sketchy. I'm not going to lie. Let's fast forward to the 9th here. So Colton Wong had a 1-out single. Oh, yeah. And this was all against Craig Kimbrell, too. And Rango Ravello, it was his first double second double in the majors, but he's a brand new guy up in the majors. He hits a 1-out double to put second and third, the go-ahead run at the plate, the game-tying run at second base, and Ravello with just 1 out. However, Craig Kimbrell got Matt Wieters to ground out to KB, and then Yairo Munoz struck out. It was a beautiful pitch by Craig Kimbrell on the curveball, probably the best we've seen with him as a Cub, and he really had to work for that ace save of the season, but it paid off. The Cubs won. And pitching in this one for the Cubs, Kyle Hendricks was great. 7 innings, 7 hits, 0 earned runs. He won his 8th game of the year as he went 104 pitches. Kyle Ryan and Brandon Kinsler earned their 9th and 14th holds respectively, as they had a clean 8th inning for the Cubs, no base runners in the 8th. As it was just overall a good win. It felt good going into the series finale. However, the Cubs just got trampled in this one, 8-0. It was a little bit closer than the score suggests, as it was 2-0 through 5 innings, but it felt like kind of a ticking time bomb the way we couldn't hit Jack Flaherty. And once John Lester left the game, it just kind of all blew up. Derek Holland gave up a huge 3-run homer to Matt Wieters in the 6th inning. John Lester got bounced on right away in the 1st inning with an RBI single. Colton Wong's RBI single in the 4th made it 2-0. Lester did finish 5, but he gave up 5 runs as he was tagged for 2 of the 3 runs that Matt Wieters hit in via his 3-run homer off Derek Holland. Lester got tagged for the loss as well. Like, I don't know if I mentioned, but he had 9 hits against him. He did have 6 strikeouts, but was no match for Jack Flaherty. The Cubs were actually being no hit into the 6th inning. However, new Cub Nick Castellanos recorded the first hit for the Cubs in the 6th inning with an out. Flaherty went 7 with just 1 hit allowed, no runs, 2 walks, and 9 strikeouts as he outpitched Lester. And then Brad Brock, who was actually recently DFA'd, finally he's gone. I think, his season ERA with the Cubs was 6.13 is the final number for Brad Brock. He's finally gone as Cole Hamels came up on Sunday, or I should not say came up, but was taken off the IL and activated. And then David Phelps had a clean out in this one. I want to say that was his second outing as a Cub, I believe. But actually, I'm not sure about that. No, that was his first outing as a Cub. He got an out. He did give up a hit, but he had a strikeout. Anyways, the Cubs lost this one 8-0. The last 2 runs were scored in the 7th and 8th on a sac fly and a double play. They still scored on that in the 8th to make it 8-0. Cubs literally had 1 hit all game. Nick Castellanos with that 6th inning hit off Jack Flaherty, and that was it. As the offense continued, to just not produce anything, especially on the road. However, let's get into this last weekend. These last few days here for the Cubs started on Friday, and this team just right away looks so different at home. It's just so crazy. We're now 21 games over 500 at home, 39-18, just absolutely ridiculous. But Jason Hayward started off with a solo homer in the first inning, a leadoff homer. He really, in the last week, has looked so good in the leadoff spot. I mean, just amazing. In the last week, a .292 average, 7 hits, 4 runs scored, 2 walks, and a home run and RBI. That's also not including today's game in which he had an RBI triple and another leadoff homer. But anyways, his solo homer off Zach Davies, I believe, pitched in this one. Yeah, Zach Davies versus Jose Quintana. Ryan Braun's solo homer in the top of the 2nd did tie the game, but Javier Baez hit a go-ahead 2-run homer in the 3rd, his 26th of the year, followed by Jose Quintana's pretty clutch 2-out RBI single off Davies to make it 4-1 after 3 innings. And then a couple fielder's choice ground out force outs for the Cubs in the 5th and 6th by Contreras and Javi made it a 6-1 game. Overall, the Cubs pitching was great again. Jose Quintana, 6 innings, 2 runs, no walks, very impressive. He did give up 7 hits, but had 5 strikeouts. A very solid, quality start for Jose Quintana, won his 9th game of the year on Friday. Rowan Witt continued to dazzle. Another scoreless inning. His season RA was down to 2.25 at this point. And Brandon Kinsler had a clean inning. Kyle Ryan as well, as the Cubs actually... never mind. Milwaukee had 3 errors in this game. 2 of them were by Keston Hiura, too. I remember that. But I'm trying to see here where that last run came for the Brewers in the top of the 7th because it didn't get charged to anyone, and that's why I was confused. That's very odd. The Brewers scored in the 7th inning. I think MLB needs to change that. They scored in the top of the 7th on a Manny Pena ground out, yet the Cubs had 0 errors, and the only runs that were tagged for in the game on MLB.com is Jose Quintana for 2 runs. That's why I was just confused because I thought someone gave up a run. I mean, someone did, obviously. It should be, I can check right now, actually. Top of the 7th, it should have been Rowan Wick. But anyways, I'll move on. The Cubs won this one 6-2. Like I said, very clean game for the Cubs. Not so much with the Brewers with the 3 errors. But Javi Baez, 3 for 5 in this game. 2 doubles and the home run. 3 RBI as well. And yeah, the Cubs played well. It was just a totally different team heading back to Wrigley Field. Now we'll get into Saturday's game, yesterday's game, as the Cubs won again. The pitching continues to dazzle for the Cubs. As in this one, it was Cole Hamels making his first start back from the IL, and he had a 75 pitch limit. He ended up going 74 pitches, 49 strikes, pretty efficient. 5 innings, 4 hits. Those 5 innings were all scoreless, 6 strikeouts, and no walks for Cole. He looks perfect. He could, if he was on his normal pitch count, he was going 7 innings in this one, at least. So overall, that looked really good. I mentioned before in the podcast, if you're joining late, that David Phelps did get the blown save, but the first batter, at first he was called out. The Milwaukee did challenge it, and they won the challenge. I think Lorenzo Cain hit, it was Lorenzo Cain. He hit like a soft dribbler right over Phelps' glove, and that was the first base runner, and kind of on this garbage infield hit. And then Phelps fell in the count 2-0 against Christian Yelich, and the Cubs pretty much just walked him on 4 pitches then. Wasn't intentional, but all of a sudden it was first and second, no outs, with not really any hits. Then he got a pop-up, and then a really nice swinging strikeout. However, Ryan Braun had a 2-out, 2-strike hit on a ball. Phelps actually got him to chase on it. However, Braun's end of the bat barely clipped it into center on this like soft little liner, and it ended up scoring a run. So anyways, that's how Hamels got the no decision. I felt bad because Hamels really should have got the win. I know he only went 5 innings, but I mean, for him to come back from the IL like that, no walks, no runs, and 6 strikeouts in 5 innings on 74 pitches, that's pretty impressive. And the way Phelps technically blew it was just kind of garbage. He pitched fine, especially on that pop-up and the strikeout. That game could have went really lopsided with the Cubs only up 1-0 at that point. The way they got there, I should mention, was Javier Baez scoring on a wild pitch in the second inning. Then, like I said, it was 1-1 after 6. However, Albert Almora didn't let the lead last long, as the next inning in the bottom of the 7th, he hit a line drive homer into the left field basket. That one was off of, I want to say, Junior Guerra. Yeah, Junior Guerra. And the Cubs led 2-1, and then they got 2 really important insurance runs. I think that was very big because, Craig Kimbrell and anyone in this bullpen, we've seen the nerves get to them in high-pressure situations. I understand that we're paying them a lot of money, and this is their job, but in the nature of it, obviously there's going to be a lot more pressure when you only have 1 run compared to 3. And the Cubs got 2 very important runs, I think, mentally, for Craig Kimbrell in the 9th, especially with, they did have a 2-out double from Eric Thames. All of a sudden, that could have been the game-tying run at second base, but it wasn't, as Javier Baez had an RBI single in the 8th, and then Albert Almora, nice situational hitting, a great day at the plate for Almora. He went 3 for 3, 2 RBI, the home run, he had a couple singles, and then a sac fly in the 8th to make it 4-1. And then, like I said, Craig Kimbrell earned his 9th save of the year. As for the Cubs pen, it was a lot of guys that did a lot of work. Derek Holland had a clean out. Rowan Wick actually did get the win. He came out in the 7th. Kyle Ryan, the lefty, much like Holland, only went 1 out. He earned his 10th hold, and Steve Cishek got his 11th hold, getting the last 2 outs at the 8th before Kimbrell closed it down in the 9th, giving just the Eric Thames 2-out double in the 9th. So anyways, it was a good game for the Cubs. I mean, 9 hits. I was going to post, I remember writing up the post kind of in the 7th, 8th inning thinking, the pitching was great, but the offense really, needs to come through. I mean, this is still another game that we win, but, you look at the game prior, and yeah, we scored 6 runs, but the series before we couldn't score at all. But I had to change it because in the 8th inning, with those 2 big hits, the Cubs did have 9 hits. I understand that Moore had 3 of them, but overall, you see Castellanos had another 2. Javi had a couple too. So, I mean, overall, a pretty good game for the Cubs. A clean game that there wasn't a whole lot of headache in this one, minus Ryan Braun with that game-tying single, but Almora came through for the Cubs. Now let's get into today's game for the Cubs. It was another game that, we just looked so good at home. 14 hits, 7 runs for the Cubs. They got on to Adrian Hauser right away. Christian Yelich did hit his 37th homer of the season off of Yu Darvish, but Darvish really settled in nicely. He finished 5 innings. Like I said, his first time in the last 6 outings